Ann Dittmeyer is 63 years old. She grew up in a large Catholic family. She was one of 8 children. She was the third born, so just about in the middle. She grew up on the outskirts of Louisville and would have a father who worked several jobs to support the family and so wasn't around a whole lot, but with a full-time stay-at-home mom. Anne was born in an era when she wasn't entitled to a free public education and therefore never participated in any kind of formalized education or training. She would have gone to a very small program for a number of years that were run by moms who virtually co-opt and used free space in the church basement to bring their children together a couple times a week, and what really constituted playing games and socializing, not so much focused on education. Anne would, after that, have really been one of the firsts in a lot of ways as an adult woman with an intellectual disability in Kentucky. She was one of the first 5 people in the state who received supported employment services, and so as a result worked for 30 years in competitive employment jobs, especially at a time when that was extremely rare to see or to experience. She also would have been one of the first women to have a home of her own, and around about 26 years ago, Anne's brothers and sisters and mom and dad got together and began talking about her future, and she would have moved out in over a variety of different kind of living situations over the years, which really started pretty conservatively with her moving into the apartment, a second bedroom in the apartment of a woman about her mom's age, to moving into an apartment that she leased with another woman with an intellectual disability, in an apartment that had 3rd bedroom for a live-in support roommate. From there to renting her own home and inviting someone to live in that home with her, to the situation she lives in now, which will be described later as more of a duplex situation with live-in support. In terms of Anne's relationship, she would actually have many because she's from a large family. Both of her parents would now be deceased, but 3 brothers and are still living, and 3 her sisters are still living. Her one brother is deceased of mesothelioma about 8 years ago. 3 of her brothers and sisters live locally, and one sister lives about 2 hours, a fairly easy drive away, and the other 10 hours away in Florida. And then the final oldest brother, who is a priest, is a missionary in Cambodia, so quite far away. She has 13 nieces and nephews, which she stays very much informed about, close to, and has contact with, and a lot of adult cousins who really don't have much contact these days, other than her relationship with Julie Hansen, which is a cousin a couple of years younger than her who lives nearby. She also has a great Aunt Mary who is in her 90s, her mother's sister, and lives in a nursing home, and Anne will visit with Aunt Mary periodically. Anne also has some good friends, Deborah, who she met through the Alzheimer's Association, and spends some time socializing with, particularly going to the theater, going out to dinner, having Deborah over to her home. Also, Jenny Needy is a woman that she's known for many years as a part of what the group of ladies call their lunch bunch. They meet once a month at different restaurants in the Highlands. Anne was one of the founders of that group, and Jenny would be somebody that she still stays in a lot of contact with, and entertains Jenny at her home and that kind of thing. Anne also knows a number of her neighbors. Mary and Mike would be the closest neighbors straight across the street from her, and they've also lived there for 20 years, and so she's watched them raise their children and so forth and so on. Another neighbor she'd be close to is a woman whose name is Julie. She and Julie used to walk a lot. Now they kind of visit and stay in touch in other ways. The neighbors on each side of her would be friends, but perhaps more acquaintances. They would be the kind of do the standard things that neighbors do for one another. The man on the right in particular does help her with lawn work or emergency household kind of things if needed. Anne would be part of a number of social networks. The Dipmeyer social network, because it's such a large family, there's Dipmeyers all over town. But she also has been embedded in the same Catholic church for 20 years now, and attended the same YMCA, although she's taken a number of different courses or participated in different ways. There would be other regulars there that she knows of. She'd have a number of acquaintances, people she knows by name, know her, but wouldn't constitute really friendships, including a regular hairdresser, nail technician, the mailman she knows quite well. She has a pharmacist she knows by name and calls on when she needs help. A number of church members that know her, she knows them, and a little something. They might sit by each other but not see really each other outside of the church. And some of the other neighbors, and even servers on from restaurants where she's a local. And would also have a number of paid supporters. Kelly is her housemate who lives upstairs and who is paid to do support her 12 to 15 hours a week. Another woman whose name is Sam, who supports her about 18 to 20 hours a week, and we're looking for a third person now. She also has regular doctors and regular psychiatrists and occupational and physical therapists as paid supporters. Anne's current home situation, as I mentioned earlier, she lives in her own home that she has paid off. The mortgage has been paid off since she lived there for 20 years. It's in the Highlands neighborhood, known as a great neighborhood. Very friendly, resource-rich, lots of restaurants, banks, churches, workout places, art studios, liquor stores, you name it, grocery stores, markets, fruit markets, really within walking distance. So it's a great location, and Anne really loves her home. Her home would be described as cozy, charming, practical. She has a small yard, which is perfect. She can do a bit of gardening, the decorations around the front of her front porch. The house has a front porch, which is really nice. She can sit there and watch as neighbors walk by and have conversation, as do many other neighbors on the street. They all have front porches. And entertains there a bit, but could certainly do more. She receives a fair amount of support to live in her own home. One of her nieces, they take turns cleaning every other week for Aunt Anne, and she pays them a little something for that. Her paid supporters help her with her grocery shopping and preparing meals and keeping the refrigerator cleaned out and really noticing when something needs to be done at her house that Anne might not notice. For instance, that it's time to put away summer clothes and get out winter clothes, or it's time to decorate for Christmas, those kinds of things. Anne would do her own laundry. She does reheat the meals that have been made or serve herself out of a crock pot, and wouldn't use the oven when she's home alone, but will use a microwave. But again, it typically involves just heating up food that's been prepared together ahead of time. She's good about taking out her garbage, bringing in the mail and the paper, and so forth. Her home does have steps entering both the front and rear entrances, and that's become an issue. In terms of how Anne spends her time, she doesn't spend much time in any kind of educational efforts. I guess we missed that window because she didn't participate in any of that as a younger person. She's not really been interested in much of that as an adult, and when she's tried it, she hasn't really liked it. Again, she's retired after 30 years of work. Her previous work, first 10 years was as a lobby attendant in a fast food restaurant. The next 10 years was working in the kitchen of an Italian restaurant. And the last 10 years was retail work in a TJ Maxx, where she was responsible for keeping the dressing rooms clear of clothing, things rehung and put away, and such. Anne is a very active citizen. She volunteers at the Alzheimer's Association once a week, where she helps them get their mailings out and send thank you notes for donations, and signs people up for fundraisers and such. She also participates in the Neighborhood Association and attends their regular monthly meetings, and has provided a variety of kind of services. Currently, she would work mainly at events, handing out information or contributing refreshments or helping set up or clean up, that kind of thing. But in the past, she's also been the person who delivered the newsletters door to door, or who welcomed new neighbors to the neighborhood by delivering a package from the Neighborhood Association as part of a welcoming committee. And also, as many retired people do, has a rich leisure life. She participates in a card party group, once a month. That's a part of her church community, primarily women her own age. She attends an art class every other Tuesday with a woman that she's been taking art from for a number of years, and she focuses primarily on drawing and painting and doing some weaving or other kind of handwork. Textile and handwork. She often gives those things that she's made as gifts to other people. And also participates in a lunch bunch that meets once a month. At lunch, take turns choosing restaurants in the neighborhood, the Highlands neighborhood, to try out together that lunch bunch, and was an originator of that, and it's been meeting for 10 plus years now. And especially spends regular weekly time with family. She would spend every Monday evening and Saturday mornings with my husband and I, her brother, and she would spend Tuesdays, would have a meal with her sister Mary, and on Friday has lunch with her sister Jane on a regular basis, and also enjoys taking kind of long weekend travel, day trips. She likes staying 1 or 2 nights in a row at a hotel and someplace where within driving distance. So she might do that with a paid supporter, or she might do that with a family member. She has on at least one occasion done that also with a friend. In terms of Anne's personal and spiritual development, she attends Mass on a regular basis, usually on a Saturday afternoon or early evening. If she can't make it, then she will go on the Sunday. She volunteers at various events there that they host, primarily picnics and fish fries and that kind of thing around hospitality. She is a member of the choir there and sings in the Saturday night group usually. And she also, in terms of maintaining her mental health and physical health, she swims 3 times a week at the local JCC. In terms of roles for Anne, her most highly valued roles have been sister, aunt, homeowner in the past, employee, but now volunteer, neighbor, friend, and church member. Her devalued roles, she's at risk of being seen as being unstable, or as people here would say, crazy, because she would talk to herself at times, or would kind of have emotional bouts of crying for no apparent reason. That makes her confusing for people to understand at times. She is also seen as dependent, probably more dependent than she actually is. She could be seen as a patient because she does rely on a lot of therapies and medical care and assistance. Aged, as she's becoming less able physically. A menace, and in terms of needing assistance of others who aren't always as interested in doing that as she might need them to be, and even an embarrassment at times to her paid supporters or her nieces and nephews. In